I believe he still holds the #1 and #2 non-typical in Idaho. I haven't looked for a while, but you would have heard, I think. If they. What did it score? Was it
261, the big one, and then the smaller one was 238. His feet didn't look small to me when we got him, but my old man was just giving it to me. He's like, we're following a 2-point. He's like, are you sure you shot the right deer?
And I had 3 jobs, and I quit 2 of them.
It wasn't very good.
Well, yeah,
it just wasn't. I was shooting an old Raptor. I shot the thing with a Raptor. The thing went off like a shotgun.
Right.
Well, and we are rolling, John.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Doing well.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, just busy as always.
Yeah.
So we got a guest here today. This is Zach Shetler. Been a longtime friend of mine, and we're excited about hearing some stories from him, and he's a killer. Real quick, we just want to thank some of our partners that we got. Nomad Camo has been a great supporter of ours. And Needed by Carlton Calls, Red Line Archery, and they're making sights and quivers and stabilizer that so far so good. We're really enjoying those.
Yep.
Aerotech arrows, and I'm loving those. I know you are too, John.
Yes, sir.
Trophy Line.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to forget.
Yeah, no. Trophy Line is making their tree saddles that we're pretty pumped about trying this year for our bears, and
yeah, that's gonna
some
be
elk. I'm gonna do some elk hunting out of it, and also Eberly stock.
Yep. Just jumped on board.
Yeah, and I was talking to one of the guys there, and we were talking about what we like about their packs and stuff, and I told them what I really like is how versatile they are, and you buy them kind of a la carte. At least that's the way we bought ours, with the frame, and then the bat wings and the different size bags to accommodate whatever hunt situation you're in. So anyway, excited about continue using those, because we've been using those for a while.
Yeah, I've had mine for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So,
it's been a great pack.
Anyway, Zach, what's going on, man?
Not much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming down, making the trip.
Yeah.
30 miles or whatever it is.
Hey, it's a ways out here.
It is. I know it's 40 minutes for me from my house to get over here.
Yeah, it's a nice place. Nice place.
It is.
Thanks.
But so real quick, I'll tell you where Zach and I kind of met, and I actually met his dad, because Zach was a really young whippersnapper, and but he had a great teacher, because his dad had a reputation of being a killer too, and I remember meeting him years ago, passing through town where he grew up, in a little town in here, Cary, Idaho. And as it turned out, his grandpa's got a place there in the town I live in Filer. And so I got to know their family. Like I said, I'd seen Zach, but he was quite a bit younger. And then I started hearing about this Zach Shetler. And, he puts in the time, that's for sure. He's killed every year. He's just one of those really consistent hunters, and I don't know.
Not quite every year, but
I
wish.
Yeah, most every year. I mean, honestly, you know as well as I do, if you want to kill a deer every year, you can.
Yeah.
It just your standards are higher than a lot of people's.
Yeah.
So you can
changes from year to year.
Yeah. Because you never know until the animal gets in front of you. Really.
Right. No. Yeah. No. I mean, I drew that archery tag and didn't even hunt,
Oh, really?
Because of that,
just never saw.
Just couldn't get anything special,
Yeah.
A lot of young deer and
Yeah.
good deer, but young deer.
Yeah.
But yeah, some years you just don't, because you just don't get what you want,
Right. Zach, as far as we know, I mean, I believe he still holds the #1 and #2 non-typical in Idaho. I haven't looked for a while, but you would have heard, I think, if they would have been beat.
Yeah, for sure. #1, you would have heard.
Yeah. What did it score? Was it
261, the big one, and then the smaller one was 238.
238. Wow.
Yeah, awesome deer. But yeah, I don't know where they rank today. The big one was somewhere around 6 or 7.
in the world.
In the world.
Oh wow!
The last I checked, some guys had killed some big deer up in, I think it was up north.
Yeah.
I think.
Nice.
But yeah.
But
It's still up there.
I think
Crazy.
I'm sure it's kind of a bittersweet the day you did kill it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being it was on September 11th, and you probably didn't even know what was going on, or did you?
We did right when we walked up to him.
Really?
So I shot him the night before.
Okay.
So it was right at dusk and barely got to him in time. You know, they were moving and barely got to him in time. And when I shot him, I didn't really know where I'd hit him. There was just enough sagebrush and just enough, you know, I wasn't shooting the fastest bow back then. It was a 30-yard shot, but it barely cleared the sage, and I didn't really know where I hit him.
Yeah.
So when he walked off, I knew better. I just let him go, and I just snuck out of there and went and told the story, you know. To my old man, I'm like, I killed a deer that is insane. You know?
Yeah, so I do just want to back up a little bit because I remember, you know, you telling me this story about how that wasn't your target buck.
No.
And so talk a little bit, if you don't mind.
So
about
yeah,
that.
there was a deer out there that was killed later that they called moonbuck,
Uh-huh.
and he was a 205 typical when he walked by me that night. He was in this group, and I think there was 10 bucks in there. So September 11th, they're just barely coming out of velvet. Most of them were out. And anyway, and I had been working on that moonbuck for a couple of years, trying to figure that whole thing out. I wasn't a desert guy then, you know. I'd come from Cary. I didn't know much about the desert deer, so I was figuring that whole world out, you know. And it was taking some time, but there were huge deer there. I mean, I was telling stories, but I didn't really. No one believed, you know.
Yeah.
Even my old man's like, "Yeah, you've never seen a 30-inch deer," you know, stuff like that. But
Dad?
so yeah, so, you know, that was back then. It was a 30-inch buck. We didn't.
Right.
It was a 30-inch buck. I saw that we didn't care at all. We're like, I saw a 30-inch deer, and anyway, that thing just worked me over because I just didn't know the desert at all.
Yeah.
You know. So, but that night, yeah, they were coming together, and the one I ended up killing was just hanging back. He was coming so slow. He'd come out of nowhere. They were all together, and then he kind of come out of nowhere and was, I think, trying to join them a little bit. You know.
Oh, so he's just tailing behind.
He was just kind of hanging out.
What did
back.
you think when you saw?
I didn't.
Because obviously he dwarfed everything else.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Frame wise, he just had so much more going on. You know.
Trash.
But that moonbuck was a serious. I mean, he was a crazy big deer. I mean, 205 typical. He was nuts. You know. But I had a decision to make once I finally got all that together. I'm like, do I let him go? Do I let all these deer go? And by the time I got into position, I ran out of sage, and I got there as fast as I could, but I ran out of sage, and they all popped out into the burn, and it was just grass. So I was exposed. I'm kind of on the edge of it, and I had to let them all get just into wide open for me.
And take a chance that you might even be
And
blown.
just blow it. And I felt like that's what I was doing. Because I had him just dead to rights 30 yards. You know, he was just feeding and
The moonbuck.
yeah.
Oh.
And I had to make, and I was tugging on it. You know, I was, what do you do? You know, but I could still see that frame rocking around and coming. You know, and he was, like I said, probably 80 yards back there. So it probably didn't take as long as what I thought in my mind.
3 hours.
It
What you
felt
thinking?
forever. And then finally he gets in there, and it was head down and the whole deal. And when I drew, he didn't move. He didn't bring his head up. He didn't nothing. But every other deer saw me. I saw him.
Oh.
You know, I was doing one of these watching them as I was pulling, and they all just snapped and were watching me. You know, and he never even lifted his head up, and he took a step, and it worked. You know, it worked. So
Awesome.
insane.
Yeah.
And then he ran out there. You know, he ran out there about 70 yards and just stood. And I actually shot again.
You miss him?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. I saw it just right under. I didn't. No range finders. Whatever. I just,
And archery with a slow bow.
It was. I was like, I'm somewhere right in there, but I knew he was hit good.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. I just wanted.
Sure.
I wanted, you better get something going here, you know. And I shot, and then he just turned and walked. He really didn't even run. He just turned and walked off, and I thought he's hit really hard. So, but I didn't want to blow it. We grew up that way. We grew up, if you don't know, just get out of there. So I laid my bow actually, because I didn't have anything else. I'd walked in there in my socks. I had nothing. It was so dry that year that you couldn't move out there without, and it was crickets.
I bet those right in the evening, right before dark.
Yeah, so I got the wools on, the whole deal, and I'd been walking for like a mile because I didn't know where they were. And so I was taking bedding spots one by one as I was going through there trying to pick. I knew that there were eight or so in that group, so I figured I could find them.
Once you find one, you'll find the rest.
Yeah, and so I was looking for horn tips and stuff going in these bedding areas, and that's how I found them. But I ended up being out there further than I thought, So all my stuff is just kind of in hindsight, like what I learned about the desert is what an idiot, right. I barely made it out of there because I couldn't see,
Right. So you have no headlamp?
No, I didn't have anything. So by the time I get to the truck, it's just pitch black, and then I get back and I was telling my dad, like I killed a huge deer, like it's insane, and I I don't know if they fully believe me, but anyway, they knew it was something big. So. And it's been a family affair for many years. Like, it was almost better that you didn't just knock one down instantly, right?
Yeah.
If you got to go out and do some tracking at night, that was the thing, right? We used to love it. If Dad would come home, which he killed one every year,
Yeah.
But it was.
And your mom was out there too.
Yeah, and she was an insane hunter too. She was really good. So, but she killed everything, right? Like when she shot it, it just died. So. But once in a while, Dad would come back, and say, I got one, I hit one, I don't know, I'm not sure, whatever. So we'd love that, oh yeah, let's go track it at night.
Yeah.
That's what we love to do. But we didn't go at night. We decided to wait till morning, and we went out there first light, and we started tracking him, and his track was this big.
Really?
It was insane, and I. In hindsight, I think a lot of it's because he was almost tiptoeing, because I hit him just behind, so he got one lung and liver, and I don't know if he's doing that tiptoe type thing, but his feet didn't look small to me when we got him, but my old man was just giving it to me, He's like, yeah, we're following a 2-point. He's like, are you sure you shot the right deer? All this stuff, and I'm like, wait till you see this thing, And it was a track job. It was bad because he went right from where I saw him. He went 50 yards and laid down, but then the coyotes came in, pushed him for a mile.
Oh,
and so when he laid down, there was no blood. It was just print after print after print after print, and here we go. But they're good at it. We were good at it that time, and so it was track by track by track, and then he would lay down. And we would see a little blood spot, so we knew we were still on him. And it got confusing with the track being that small. We're like, did we miss this? Did he do something here and we missed it? But anyway, we finally catch up to him. We finally get him, and he's dead. And that cows didn't touch him, luckily. I think they gave up. Then? He was stunned. I'm telling you. He was stunned. That we all were. Even me. We were all just sitting there.
When you got your hands on it.
Yeah, and my whole family was there, so that was fun. And
your brother.
Yeah, and so when we, it was insane. To put your hands on something like that. Yeah. And to have them get bigger.
Right. No ground shrinkage.
Yeah, we're just mauling this thing, but literally it was seconds after we got there. Our phones all rang at the same time. Oh. My wife called. She was working at CSI. You're not going to believe it. Dad's phone went off. Mom's phone. It just went nuts.
Well, because of 9/11.
Yeah.
Ah.
Gotcha.
And it went from it was just the strangest day.
I bet. I bet. The whole surreal thing of what happened with the animal, and then even worse, the surreal of.
Yeah. And we were like, because we didn't know what happened. There's no, like the phones we have now, someone's trying to stay on the phone while we're trying to get to the animal. I'm trying to figure out exactly, it felt like World War III, it felt like, wow, we got attacked on our soil. This deer doesn't mean anything right now.
Right.
I remember when I saw it, I was looking at the TV, and then I watched the second plane hit, in the live, what it was there, but it was kind of like, am I really seeing this, or am I really seeing it? It was hard to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a strange day. I'll never forget. Everybody knows where they were, right? But that was insane for me because highest of highs to just the lowest of lows in seconds, and then so we never really got excited about the deer for a while. you know, we kind of got back and got it taken care of and did our thing, and then we just kind of forgot about it because it wasn't important, you know.
Yeah.
So strange.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know I really appreciate your family. From, you know, what I knew your dad, or what I know of your dad and family and your mom and whatnot, being a tight family and a hunting family together, and growing up in a little town like you did. What was population back then?
Oh boy, you know, I don't even want to guess, but it was small. I mean,
A couple thousand at the most.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was a great place to grow up.
I bet.
Being who we were, you know,
Yeah.
and it made us who we were, I guess, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
Dad moved up there. I don't know if you knew that. He moved up. We moved up there because of Grandpa's business in Filer, the glue lamp business.
Right.
He sold it to the Gammon brothers up there.
Right.
And
right.
the boys were the only ones that knew how to run the equipment. So Dad went with it, and that's how we moved. And he was excited to do it.
I knew he had moved up there to work up there, but I didn't. I guess that makes sense because, you know, the glue lamp business that he had here, and I knew he had closed, you know, and everything.
Yeah.
But that makes total sense.
And that was a perfect fit. You know, they were hunters here, you know, and it was like, where else would you want to be? We're right in the mountains. I mean, and that's kind of how
fishing right there too.
And that's how he got started, really, in the elk, you know. And then once he figured out the elk thing there, he just kind of rolled with it.
And that man had it figured out.
And he had it figured out. Yeah, he could get it done. And he never did get the mule deer stuff, because up there it's more, you know, it was an open hunt. They got slaughtered, you know, and it was so he never really got the bug for that. But I think he had fun watching me do it, you know.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because I remember when I first met him, he was kind of on his way out from bow hunting because of his shoulders, and it was kind of sad because, like, you knew he really wanted to still do it, but I know physically he just couldn't do it, and
those first few years with Josh and I both, I mean, he went with us a lot, you know. He went with us to just to be there, you know.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun those first few years trying to figure it out for ourselves. You know? And
some of the best experiences or best learning experiences are screwing up.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure your dad was probably there to help you, you know, tell you.
Mm-hmm. My first bull was one of my biggest. It was like a 320 bull, and I worked tirelessly for that elk, and I wasn't going to shoot anything else, and it took all 30 days. I think I shot him on the last day.
Wow.
It was bad. I mean, I blew that thing I had plenty of opportunities. You know, we were kind of on him. We had him figured out, and I just couldn't kill him, you know. I just blew everything I did was wrong, you know. So in hindsight, that was great because I just went on a tear after that. You know, it just felt like they were easy to kill for me after that because I'd done so many wrong things.
I know, you know, it's. I found that. I remember I've always said that probably the year I had only killed about 4 or 5 bulls, and I hadn't killed a 6-point yet. So I told myself I'm holding out for a 6-point, and I had 3 jobs. And I quit 2 of them and had someone cover my shift for the other one, the other job, just so I could keep it. I had something when I got done.
Right.
But the season at that time that's when it closed, September 24th. I don't know if you're even hunting much then or not, but it went August 30th till September 24th. And I remember I hunted like 19 days of that. I had to come back and work like a couple shifts. I was mad. And you know, I couldn't buy a 6-point.
Uh-huh.
But I can't tell you how many 5 points, 4-point spikes, blah, 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 that came in. Well, I was shooting a recurve at the time. I had 13 recurve opportunities, but never on a 6-point. But I learned so much that year, and you kind of get to that, and I'm sure you got to that level with the elk, and I'm sure with deer, you got to that level too, where we never know it all because we still get schooled.
Oh yeah.
And when I quit getting schooled, it's not going to be no fun then. I do enjoy that part of it. As long as you can walk away, not be mad, and maybe a little frustrated, but say, okay, what did I need to do? Change it.
Yeah.
But you kind of get to that point where things click, and it, it's never super easy, but it's certainly a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. We had different hunting styles. It was funny watching my dad all those years. He would and we learned we'd kill him pretty good that way. But he was more of just get yourself in position and let them make a mistake.
I remember when I did elk hunt with you a couple times, and that's how you guys did it.
He was like, just don't press too hard. They'll make a mistake. Just get in there, and that's where the basics of it. Just get close.
Yeah.
And
you didn't call much, huh?
we didn't call at all. I mean, very rarely, because of where we were, and that's what he figured out. Because of where we were, so the pressure was a lot.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they can look calm as they can be, and you call them. It's over. So he just learned to. We hunted in the evening. We waited for the wind to draw. We came out to the bottom, and I'm telling you, it was clockwork for a long time, and it still works to this. I mean, the last bull I killed, it was the same exact way.
Yeah, I remember you telling me the story. Yeah.
It was just the same, and it was totally different country, totally different stuff, but it all works the same,
Yeah.
So, but I was more aggressive, Later, I got really aggressive. I'd push it
with elk.
Yeah, I'd really push it, and I was I was kind of more my style, but if that was.
That's what it takes sometimes.
Yeah, and you find your own way, right? Everybody finds their own way, and everybody has their own deal, and
I think sometimes, and I know some guys that hunt, and they get into elk. We'll talk just real quick about elk here, but they get into them, but they can never close the deal. And I feel a lot of times it's exactly what you're saying, is they're so afraid of blowing it. And I can't tell you how many times I've went, you know what, I'm just going to go for it.
Right.
And it works out.
You can get away with a lot.
You do a lot more than you think.
Yeah. They're not a deer, they're just not. You can get away with some weird stuff.
Noise for one thing. I mean, you can definitely get away with a lot more noise with an elk.
Yeah.
With a deer, boy, they're on.
Yeah.
Especially them. A lot of times, them mature bucks, if they're by themselves, I mean, they're totally on the alert. Then.
Yeah. Lot bigger learning curve with the deer for sure.
They still get. I know I've personally seen a few pretty decent bucks in that area. But it's been a lot of years, but it's kind of one of those things. I haven't really hunted enough up there to find them. But and then I remember a couple times. I know at least one time you actually drew a really good rifle tag. And decided to go with your bow.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually drew it twice.
Can you bleep that name of that unit out? So.
No. He'll never draw again.
I drew that thing. So this is, and I'll admit I am lucky. I drew it twice.
Rather be lucky than good anytime.
So did I? Yeah, no, I drew it twice in the rifle, and then when they had this archery came up last year, I drew it again.
Oh wow!
So I've had it 3 times, but I archery hunted it.
Is that right?
Every time.
And if I remember right, one of the bucks you killed, that good buck, wasn't that far off the road that people could have seen it.
No.
And I kind of, you told me where it was at, and I don't know, maybe you weren't telling me the right spot. But
I was right.
So, and you know what? That's one thing I know that I'm like that when it comes to people's hunting spots. I know. I mean, you've had people follow you, and I mean, if they could have put a tracker on your vehicle, I bet they would have.
Yeah.
But
it
got pretty bad, I know, for a time there. But I mean, in fact, when you killed that big buck, I remember guys talking about where you killed it. Everybody knew, they thought.
Hey.
But I just stayed away from there. And I ended up out there by accident because I really didn't know where I was going. And I was like, oh, okay, because you kind of told me a little bit about it. And but I just would rather stay away because I'm not going to be that guy, and because I don't like when it's been done to me.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to deal with.
But I know you've told me a couple stories about guys literally waiting for you.
Yeah, there used to be. So there was a guy from Boise. I think he was from Boise. And he ended up killing a big deer out there several years later. But that dude would sit at I don't know what was called then, but it was the gas station there.
Yeah.
And he would just sit there and wait for us. So obvious, and we took him to hell and gone one day because we finally figured it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
There's not very, and back then there was no traffic. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
so
All of a
he
sudden,
would
the lights right after you leave.
yeah, he does one of these, and my buddy George versus I used to hunt with.
Yeah. I remember
Back,
George,
you remember George?
Yeah.
Great guy. He's like, let's take this guy for a ride, and we did, and we got him out there and got him.
So I know, Zach, one thing, a lot of your bucks, I know a lot of guys are into the backpacking and packing and everything, and most all your bucks, like I said, that one that you kill with the rifle or during rifle season with your bow, I could see the mountain from the road, and I thought it was hilarious because I just wondered, my thought was, I wonder how many people drove by that because they're thinking it's too close to the road.
Yeah.
And drove
I was
right back.
one of them for a long time.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was right there. Yeah.
But most of your bucks, you don't pack weigh in. I know if you got to walk a mile or whatever you got to do, you do. Yeah. But most of them aren't that backcountry.
No, there's the only ones that were. I did a few up north with one of my buddies, Luke McDonald.
Oh yeah.
So I went and did a couple with him, and those are fun.
Yeah.
Those for me are really fun.
Yeah.
But I never found the quality of deer.
Uh-huh.
Like it was hard to find a quality deer up there. He's done well there. He's killed a few big deer.
Killed some big ones.
But for me, I did a few with him, and I actually got in on one deer, a target deer we wanted to shoot up there, and I got in on him. And once I got to him, I'm like, this is not a big deer.
Yeah.
But here I am at 10,000 feet. I'm like, I should shoot this deer, and I didn't. But I should have. But anyway.
But I think it's cool that you have success without. My whole point of it is that you don't necessarily need to walk 13 miles to kill a big deer.
No.
And
No.
no matter what unit, and you've killed them in. It's not like you've killed them all in one unit. You've killed them in several different units. So it's all about. I do remember you telling me the buck that you end up coming to my house that one time I skinned out for you. I says, how long have you been watching him? You said 45 days. Mm-hmm. You watch that buck every day. So Zach's an electrician, and he's got his own business now, Triple S Electric, but he used to work for other electricians, and I think you must have had a deal made with those guys, huh?
Yeah, well, it wasn't a very good deal for them. It was more of a deal. Yeah, no, they put up with it. Back then, and that's one of the reasons I hunted close to.
Oh.
Because I didn't have the time. I'd go to work, come back, and then during the middle of all that, I was trying to start a business too.
Yeah.
And we were building a house. The house. You said the house for us. And we got into the middle of all that, and it didn't leave a lot of time.
Yeah.
So you have to take what you get.
Yeah.
So, but what I found out right away was the desert was a perfect fit for me because there were a lot of big deer there that were extremely hard to find.
Yeah.
But they were close.
How many years, when you killed your big buck, how many years had you hunted out in that area?
I think a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years.
Had you killed a deer previous to?
No, not out there. No. Before that, my deer, I was all elk. My deer were, when I was 12, I shot one with a bear bow, and then I shot one with my dad once with a rifle. Like after, elk season, he always knew like there's two really nice bucks right here, and the family would come up from fight or whatever, and he'd have all the deer nailed down, right? So we'd go, and I remember we shot one. We laid in their beds, and I think it was. I don't remember who shot it with me, but anyway, they came up. We shot them like 30 yards with 30-30s, and I remember telling him, I'm never doing this again. This is the last. Rifle. And I was like 13, and I said, I will never do this again. And I don't know if he did it on purpose or wanted to see what I'd do, or it's just that's what it was. But I was like, I'm done. I'm bow hunting from here on out.
Have you rifle hunted since?
No. No. I mean, coyotes, and I
taking the kids out maybe.
Yeah, the kids, and Jamie went out last year for the first time in a while.
Oh, cool.
Since the kids were born, she hasn't been much, So she drew 54, so we went up 54 and shot a nice buck. And
nice.
So that was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully she gets back into that mode, you know.
Right.
Yeah, now you're going to be empty nesters pretty
Right,
soon.
hopefully.
Huh? That's cool.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
If things
I
go right.
I don't want them to move out, but I want them to move out.
Yeah,
Right?
I know. It gets
Yeah,
to that
no,
point
it's-
where, I mean, it's a
we
good
don't-
thing. It's a good
yeah.
thing. That's what you raise them for,
That's right.
is to eventually
Yeah.
get out. But you're, if you don't mind, we'll talk a little bit about your second biggest buck and the 45 day. I mean, like I says, I remember, and that's one thing I just remember about you is that you were just persistent as all get out on your scouting. And I know there's many times you scout in the morning, go to work, scout in the evening until dark or whatever.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
Put your 6 hours in.
Yeah, and you have to have that, right? You
Yeah.
have to have that with some of those deer. Well, most of them, you know.
Yeah.
Because they don't, like I didn't get to see that deer. I only saw that deer maybe 5 times.
The second biggest
The second
buck,
one, yeah,
238 buck.
yeah. I probably only saw him 5 times in
Really?
those 45 days. Yeah.
So, how far did he move in that 45 days?
Well, I bumped him, and then he moved quite a bit. But
Okay.
when he was in the velvet, so that was a deer we knew from a year before, and he was a 200-inch deer, but I think he was a 3-year-old, maybe 4. He might have been 4, but he was little. He's a little tiny bodied thing.
Spindly.
Yeah, spindly, really spindly. And then when we saw him, I remember the night.
Steroids.
Yeah, Johnny and I saw him. Johnny was with me that night, and that night we saw him in the velvet.
Oh.
And I got that velvet picture.
Yeah.
He just freaked us out. I mean, Johnny knocked over the tripod, the whole deal. It was a mess. it was a dust ball over there trying to get him off the spot and scope. But and he said Johnny's always been better at scoring them than I have. But right away he said that's a 240 buck, and I said no. Remember what he was last year? I mean, you're talking 40 inches, and he knew it. He's like, no, that thing's huge. It's massive, And I said, when that velvet comes off, he's going to be spindly. I just knew it. So I didn't know.
Because he was a year before, huh?
Yeah, and I just didn't have any faith because I've been fooled by that before, and you never really know till they come out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I finally got to see him hard-horned, he was laying down. And I could only see a tiny part of his frame, but I knew it was him. So I went ahead and went in. And when I got in there, I was close. I was like 18 yards.
This is when you were hunting him.
Yeah, the first time I went in on him. And I saw the one back post. If you guys bring up a picture there, you'll notice one of his back posts is really thin and bladed, and it's thin. And that's the only thing I can see. And plus a little kicker, and I'm like, I ain't shooting this deer. I hadn't seen him since he come out of velvet. That's when he went out of velvet, he was a ghost.
Oh, okay.
That thing went underground. And so I'm like, I'm not shooting this deer. He's too big. He's too awesome for what, he could.
Was
what
that
he can
opening
be.
day? Didn't you
No.
kill him right around the first part of the season?
No, it was late. It
Was
was
it?
later, yeah. It was, I can't remember. But he was well out of velvet.
Okay.
So, and I killed him the next morning after I blew him up,
Okay.
which was very fortunate for me. But I when I was laying there, I'm like, I made a decision. I'm not going to shoot him. I'm like, get a picture of him, like right here. And so I got my little digicam. You remember those little digicams?
Yeah.
So I got my little digicam, and I'm up like this, and I'm trying to get a picture of him, and I'm leaning up there, and he snaps and sees me and freaks out and goes bouncing. When he got up, I almost died. I'm like, that thing is huge. And he had mass, up there, and he was bladed. And I'm like, oh no, this is, and I didn't even want to tell anybody.
That you took a picture of it?
If I wouldn't have killed that deer, I would have never told. I would not be telling this story right now. I would be like, I never saw him again. No, I blew it bad. But he had when I blew him out of there, he went. I figured he would go back to what he knew, in his home. That was not his little spot. And I figured he'd go back to where he felt like he was safe and where I'd seen him a fair bit, So I went back there the next morning, first light, and he was laying there.
Huh.
Yeah, he was in that. I just saw a butt.
How
He laid
far was
down.
that from where you bumped him the day before?
Oh, about 1.5 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd say about 1.5 miles. Yeah, and I could just see a butt standing there. I could see that white. And he laid down, and I was only about 100 yards from him. laying there, and then he was all alone. So snuck in on him and just waited.
How close was he?
I think that was close, if I remember right, 30 something, 30ish.
Yeah.
Kind of easy.
Oh.
Felt
So,
good.
yeah, Zach, after he killed that, he called me up because he couldn't get hold of the taxidermist, and he knew that, I'd skinned out quite a few guide, and so he says, "Hey, I got a buck." He goes, "Can you cape its face out?" And I said, "Sure, I'll do it." So I go, "Did you get a good one?" He goes, "Yeah, he's pretty good." And so he pulls up, but I'll never forget the head was kind of tied down between the two fenders on a four-wheeler, and I'm looking at that, I'm thinking it wasn't wide.
No, he's 24 inches wide.
Yeah. Is that 24 inside? Is that or 22?
No,
Wasn't it only like 22 inside or something?
Yeah, no, he's a narrow deer.
Yeah, and so when I
20,
saw how he
25
fit in there, of course, his last buck, was so wide, or the really big, the Shetler buck, as they call it, was so much wider. And I'm thinking, man, that's not very wide. But I mean, I see some trash. And then when he got it off there, and I'm like, holy crap. And I skinned it out, and then I said, "You mind if I throw a tape on this thing?" And so we threw a tape on it, and I was off.
Yeah, half inch.
What do you think attributed to him growing so much over just one season?
I just think he hit that magic year when he popped. So he was, 3 was probably not. He was probably a 4-year-old who went to 5.
Gotcha.
When they hit that mature,
Yeah.
and some of them pop.
Yeah.
So did his body change a lot too that year?
Yeah, he was a monster. Like, we struggled getting him out of there. Yeah, he was a big deer. He was bigger than the first one.
Really?
Yeah, body wise.
Huh.
Yeah, he was a bruiser.
And it might have been a wet year too. I don't know if you remember or not.
He was crazy fat. It was early again, and like you said, yeah, that in 01 it was so dry.
Yeah.
It was crazy dry. Those deer were not in the best shape.
Yeah.
So
Gosh, can you imagine if he would have got major wet?
yeah, I don't know. So the first one I think the only time I ever saw that deer, which I'm not sure I saw him, but 2 years before that, I saw a deer that was him shrunk down, right?
Okay.
And so I never did the math back then. I didn't know that they could pop like that.
Yeah.
And so I just never put it together till it was later. I'm like, that was the same deer.
Yeah.
He just boom, And then a guy that was shed hunting out there found his shed a couple years after I'd killed him and brought it to me.
Oh.
And Seth Greenfield.
Oh,
his
yeah.
name. Yeah, you know him.
Did he give it to you?
He gave it to me.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so I've got it at the house. We never could. We all went back out there. He's like, "This is where I found it." And it was,
I think I remember you
It was
telling
right,
me
but
that.
it was right where I killed it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we searched all over that thing, and we never turned it up. But those guys are the ones that found the moose, what they call moose buck. Remember him?
Yeah.
Just crazy. They
Right.
found 2 years worth of him.
Right.
In the same spot.
Huh.
So that's the kind of
And that was
That's
still
the-
later on, same year you killed yours, right?
Yeah. So that was, that just tells you what was out there in those years,
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wasn't in that group that walked by me, but in that area, there was a 260, a 240, a couple of 200s. I mean, it was
It
insane.
was.
So
And
pretty fortunate to be a part of that year, right?
Right.
I mean, you're not going to get that.
Because that place, pressure-wise, at that time, it was a complete open tag.
Mm-hmm.
So people stormed in from all over the state, and I bet out-of-staters too came in, and
Yeah. A lot of
and-
Missouri guys.
yeah. So
Yeah, and that was a part of that I didn't know.
yeah.
You don't think about that kind of stuff when.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, you were talking earlier about there's photographs up there of bucks you've never even virtually showed anybody, but they're out there.
Yeah.
So, it just goes to show you one way or another whether you want it to be or not.
Yeah.
Most likely,
Yeah, can't hide a deer like that.
well, no,
You just can't.
no.
But you do see what happens when when the word gets out, and then like you said, everybody had hunted there for their whole life. Every guy we ran into,
Oh, yeah.
we haven't seen a dude in
Yeah.
4 years, and every guy we ran into, oh man, I've been hunting here since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And every year we're like, yeah,
That's
I know
funny.
exactly where you killed that deer. in
never
the
seen
bush.
you guys before.
I've got that out of the antelope spot before.
Sure.
Yeah.
The worst of it is when you're out, you're hunting a new spot. You're out in a new area, and a guy runs in and he's like, "Oh, I got you now. I know where you hunt." I'm like, "Well, I don't hunt here all the time. I'm just here."
Haven't you got random text messages from people saying that?
Oh yeah.
I remember you telling me one time that.
I had a guy tell me one time that he said, "You really shouldn't have taken that picture with that deer because of the sand."
Yeah.
He said, "The sand, that dirt's got a lot of sand in it." And he goes, "And I'm the only one that knows where that sand is on that desert, but I won't tell anybody." It's like you bait me into telling him, and I'm like,
Right.
"All right, good for you."
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
You get a little of that, but
I get a lot of that with the video stuff. You get, man, you shouldn't be showing so much background. And, there's so many places that look the same.
They do.
sure.
I mean,
Desert
I know
stuff.
when it comes to pictures now. I mean, now they can look at your picture and the coordinates comes up.
Oh yeah, tough. Yeah.
So I just go home and I'll screenshot it, and that's what it'll show is there.
Yeah.
Because if you
can turn that
screenshot it
off.
and edit, huh?
I think you can turn that off on your phone.
Can you?
You got to turn your GPS off. Yeah.
So I guess I'm a dummy when it comes to that.
Screenshotting's the best bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Right.
Days later.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way.
Yeah. I know you've killed a couple. Like I said, that rifle one was in the 180s, wasn't it?
The bigger one was a 190 buck.
190.
And then the first one I shot out there was a really rough year. We had a tough year. I think that thing was like 175, and you never know about. That thing is such an up and down unit, and then you'll see something that blows your mind.
Did you run into any rifle hunters out there and they see you're hunting with a bow?
Oh yeah. Well, and they always tell me like, "Hey, there's no bow hunt out here, right?" And I'm like, "It's an any weapon hunt."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I guess, but why?" so one funny story I had out there. The first year I hunted out there, I was stalking a deer. It's about a 180 buck, and I was stalking him, and I was 1,000 yards still, but I was just trying to cover some country, and this old Dodge pulls up, and out comes the barrel, and I'm like, uh-oh, and I lay down, and he starts just gunning him, and he's like 1,200 yards, and he's just gunning, and he's just, counting dust until he hits this deer. He's shooting at the deer I'm going after, but he hits like 10 yards low, and he hits this little 4-point.
Oh.
Maybe a little 3-point, a little deer. But he accidentally hits him shooting at the other one who's way higher.
Wow.
And they see that they didn't. They just drove off. And this thing's got his guts spilled all over, and he's running around. And I called. I don't remember who it was at the time. Was it Hofflin?
Yeah.
Hofflin?
Yeah.
Or something like
Roger.
that. Roger. Yeah. I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, I got this deer. These guys just shot out of their truck and took off, And I said, I don't really know what to do. And he says, well, just shoot it. I said, well, I got a bow. It's going to take me all day. He's like, what the hell? You got a bow for? I'm like, well, I'm bow hunting. And he's like, well, do what you can, And so I actually got an extra stock that year. I mean, it took me all day.
Did you get them?
Oh, yeah. It took me forever. That thing was, on pins and needles, and it was crazy. It took me, I was like, that was in the morning. I shot him at dark.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, I go packing this thing into fishing game. Those guys never let me forget that. Every time they see me, like,
Did you ever run into those guys again?
Yeah, but I never. They were a couple of older guys, and they were looking for them. They're one of those deals that they'd known.
Oh.
Just some old timers that were.
So they did know they hit them and were looking
Yeah,
for them.
the fishing game were looking for those two guys.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
they'd been on their radar for a bit.
Oh, okay.
So they were just one of those. They were getting older, and they were. I'm not conforming, I've been shooting deer my whole life, and I don't need to get one of those.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how it all turned out, but when I described what vehicle was, I mean, they were just perked up. They're like, "Oh yeah, we know these guys."
Yeah.
And then I ran into them, and they were as they described. They're a couple older guys, and I never heard about what went down, but.
Question for you on optics, because I know the year or so after you killed your first big buck, you changed your optics, and how much did that make? How much difference did that make?
A lot for deer. I felt like a lot.
Did you have a
'cause
spot
what
and
I-
scope before?
Because I had an old spot and scope. It was Dad's. It was an I don't even remember what it was. The thing was old, and I had a pair of Bushnells that were just crap. You know, they were so bad. My equipment wasn't very good.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it just wasn't. I was shooting an old Raptor. I shot the thing with a Raptor. The thing went off like a shotgun. Right. They were terrible bows. You know, you put a fixed blade anything in that thing, and it will not fly straight. I was 30 yards because it was 30 yards. That's all I had. But
Luckily, huh?
yeah, right. I still didn't hit him very good. You know? But I became a proponent of good glass, whatever you can afford. That old saying, you know, if you can afford it, you should probably step it up. And only because of mule deer. If it was elk, not so much, right? Big yellow bodies and all that. But man, when you got to stay in your glass for hours and hours on end, it wears you out.
It's like insane how much. I think I bought my first pair of good glass Swarovskis was in the 80s, and everyone was like, "You're so stupid for buying those," but it was the eye relief was the biggest thing because I had other pairs in the past. It seemed like I was every year replacing them, and some of them halfway you drop them, and next thing you know you're seeing two, you know, and they hurt your eyes and
sure.
When I started hunting coos deer, is when I really my spot and scope, the objective got a little bigger for there just because they're a lot even smaller.
And you know nowadays, there's great glass all over.
There is.
You know, I mean, you can really find a value there. You know, even though if I had to roll it back, if I was starting out now, I wouldn't spend. Nearly the money I did back then on stuff like that, but because
you didn't have much options back then.
No, you didn't. No, it was here.
Yes, exactly.
And with a lot of our equipment, and nowadays it's crazy what you can get.
Yeah, got a lot more competitive, which is good because the price it's kept the price for a lot of stuff more affordable.
I don't ever buy that stuff anymore because I just. You keep going, right?
Yeah.
But it's great equipment. I mean, it changed a lot for me, especially the spot and scope.
Yeah.
Because the old spot and scopes we had you couldn't even stay in it for 10 minutes.
Huh.
And you can fall asleep on Swarovskis if you got your head in the right spot.
Did you run the BTX?
I did. The double.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. I borrowed a buddy of mine. I took him out 2 years ago, and they came out, and I just couldn't do it.
Huh. See, I like
because I've always used a spot and scope with both my eyes open.
Okay.
So it didn't look any different to me.
Gotcha.
So I usually get up in it and everything's clear, and I don't. But if you're one of those that has to or put it, man, that thing's invaluable. Yeah. I can see the value.
And I honestly. Never really tried leaving both eyes open with my single, my single lens or eyepiece. And I mean, after buying the BTX for me, and I know there's some other double ones out there too that are great. But for me, man, I like it.
Yeah,
it's been really good.
No, they're awesome. The technology's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time are you getting to hunt as much as you used to, or? With your business? Yeah.
Well, I can hunt. I got a lot of time. Years like this, we're really busy this year, but it always goes this way. There's years when we just got to go.
Yeah.
And so you just don't get as many days. But that's one of the reasons I went into business was so I can have the days. Because like you said before, it was, employers won't put up with that you can tell them all you want. I'm going to be scarce in September. And that's great.
Yeah, no problem.
And in construction, this doesn't work, Yeah.
So everyone's trying to hurry and get stuff done for the winter flies. And
I'd rather, just go hard like we do now. We go hard when we need to, and then you have all these days off, and that's what I did it for, and it worked out, And it's hard to balance, family and all that. I mean, you need to have. You can't. A lot of guys can't do that, if they don't have it. That's one of the reasons I was successful, honestly, because I had the time, and that's what it takes,
It is what it takes.
And a wife that'll let you do it.
Yes, that too. That too.
And
For
I,
sure.
I had that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and
That was a great conversation you guys had. Glad I could sit in on it.
Been rolling back the old times.
Right?
yeah,
You know, it was fun.
Yeah.
Great stories. Awesome. I appreciate
yeah,
you coming
he's.
by.
I'll tell you what, he's not because you're sitting here, but I mean, you got a reputation. Proof's in the pudding, though. I mean, you know, people could beat their chest all they want, but when it comes down to it, show me a picture or some horns or something. And
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I,
I've been fortunate. And I'm grateful for every minute, that I've had out there. It's been, it's awesome. But and I don't take it for granted one bit.
Right.
The time you get out there,
yeah,
because a lot of it is, fortune. You just those years when we were on those big deer, you couldn't do that now.
oh, I know.
Like if we had that this year and you couldn't do it.
No
They're
way.
not there.
Yeah.
So I don't
Along
take it
with
for
the
granted.
pressure. Gosh, there's
Yeah.
just got so much more pressure.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's would make it that much tougher. Even like I know the way you used to elk hunt off that one road that was traveled just enough. If people were to see you doing that now, they'd be lined up there
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You couldn't pull it off.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
No. Been a good ride. Hope it's
Good.
not over.
No,
Hope there's
I'm sure
one
not.
or
You
two
just
more in there.
keep at it like you
Yeah.
are, and we'll have to have you on another time and
Sure.
see how your year's going. And thanks a lot for coming.
Yeah,
on.
it was good to see you.
You too.
It's nice to meet
Appreciate
you.
you, man. Thanks for coming
You
by.
betcha. Anytime.
Well, John.
That was fun.
Yeah. It was.
I still have my voice. I didn't blow it out today.
Thank everyone for watching, and please like and subscribe on the channel, and we'll see you next time.
Yes. Thanks for following along, guys. Appreciate you.